Hello, my young budding psychologists. Good morning to all of you. We are taking a series of lectures on psychology on different topics. We talked about perception, we talk about statistics, we talk about, you know, intelligence and so many factors, topics we have talked about. But today, the topic which we are discussing is very, very important for you, and that is self-regulated learning. Sometimes you hit the word which you are learning, the meaning will automatically come. Self-regulated learning means learning that is not regulated by the external environment, that is regulated by yourself. How I will regulate my learning? If my teacher says learn it, it is external force. My papa, my mom says, my elder brother, my elder sister says learn it, it is an external force. But how I am perceiving the things, how I can control myself, how this self-regulated learning will go, it is the important topic. So, even in emotional intelligence, we say that self-motivation, and self-motivation means when you are motivating yourself for your good deed, that is the self-motivation. Similarly, self-regulated learning, I will talk about motivation, the point will come here again. So, how you will regulate your learning we will talk about. Let us start self-regulated learning now. Self-regulated learning refers to, what is the self-regulated learning? Self-regulated learning refers to one's ability to understand and control one's learning environment. Self-regulation abilities include goal setting, self-monitoring, self-instruction and self-reinforcement. Harris and Graham 1999, Hardett 2006 and Schunak 1996, they have emphasized all these points. Now, you look at the point which I was just talking about. Self-regulation ability include what? Goal setting. Who will set the goal? Somebody other will come and set your goal? No, you yourself will set the goal. It is self-learning. Self-monitoring. You monitor yourself, that what is the progress of your work. When you are exhausted, if exhausted, then what to do? Self-monitoring. Self-instruction. You give instruction to yourself that I am to do this, I have to do this. Self-reinforcement. Oh, I have done this. Good. Just good. Good, Malik Saab. You have done very well. It is self-reinforcement. Self-regulation should not be confused with mental ability. It is not your mental ability, mind it. Should not be confused with mental ability or an academic performance skill. Academic performance skill is something different. Instead, self-regulation is a self-directive process and set of behaviors whereby learner transforms their mental abilities into skill and habits through a development process that emerge from guided practice and feedback. The Butler, 1995, 98, 2002, he has explained this fact. Actually, self-regulation is not your academic performance, it is your mental ability, because mental ability everyone of us has. It is within us, but how we are using it, self-regulation, how I am managing myself. That means, if in one word I say self-regulation means self-management. So, mental ability X has same mental ability Y has, but their both self-management is different. If the self-management is different, the performance will be different. So, self-regulation is not your mental ability, it is not your academic performance, it is developing a skill. You are learning a skill of self-management or self-regulation. So, what are the characteristics of self-regulated learning that we will talk about? There are three characteristics of self-regulated learning. Number one, self-observation, monitoring one's activities, seen as the most important. Number two, self-judgment, that is self-evaluation of one's performance. Number three, self-reaction. First I explain, I read, then I will explain to you. Third is the self-reaction. reaction to performance outcomes. Effective learners are self-regulating, analyzing task requirements, setting productive goals, and selecting, adapting or inventing strategies to achieve their objectives. These learners also monitor progress as they work through the task, managing intrusive emotions and waning motivation, as well as adjusting strategies process to foster success. These are the students who ask the question, take notes and allocate their time and their resources in the way that help them to change in charge of their own learning. Paris and Paris 2000 has made this observation. So, now I will just explain you. We have what are the characteristics of a self-regulated learning. In that learner, number one, there should be self-observation, self-judgment and self-reaction. Self-observation and all these 3 points I will merge with an example. You observe yourself objectively without bias, don't be biased yourself, don't deceive yourself. I will rather a very crude words I will say, don't deceive yourself. Observe what are my potentialities, what are my weakness, why I couldn't learn this lesson, how much time it took, what is the problem in this subject, what is the problem in that subject. Observe yourself. Clear? When you will observe your potentiality, that is the asset, that is the positivity, it will motivate you. When you will observe, judgment will be objective and you will identify your negativity, your liability, your weakness, you will improve. Unless and until I identify my weakness, I can't improve. A bowler who throws a ball and on which the batsman hits for a 6, now that bowler thinks that I have put a ball which has gone out of the boundary for 6 runs. Now, if he has identified the bad ball, he will try to improve upon the next ball. So, you observe yourself, you make judgment of yourself and then self-reaction. So, such questions students who are they are self-analyzing, they analyze themselves objectively, they interpret themselves objectively and they take the notes, they allocate times. Allocate time means which subjects need more. It is I am very comfortable in this, I need less time. Why I should allocate 1 hour for 4 chapters? No, in this chapter I am very comfortable. So, should give you only 20 minutes. Now, this chapter is tough, I am not able to grasp it, it is not entering in my mind. So, I will give more time. When you will observe yourself, you will make the judgment and develop the reaction towards the self. So, these are the characteristics of the self-regulating learning. For self-regulating learning, following points are also important. Number 1, instructional strategies. Number 2, goal setting, and number 3, time management. Now, 3 points are very important for self-regulating learning. Instruction means learning, instructional strategies, goal setting and the time management. Now, first I will talk about recommended instructional strategies. Now, what are the instructional strategies? When strategy instruction for academic is paired with self-regulated called SRSD. SRSD, that is self-regulated strategy management. Self-regulated strategy management. Learners become more confident at adopting different strategies reflectively and flexibly within recursive cycle of task analysis, strategy used and monitoring. Many of self-regulated learning strategies are useful for across various content domains. Specifically, self-regulated learning consists of 3 components: cognition, metacognition and the motivation. Now, what is cognition? This component includes the skills and habits that are necessary to encode, memorize and recall information as well as think critically. What is cognition? Receiving, encoding. Now, what I am uttering, I am encoding in my mind. the next point, next point, next point, next point, clear? And when you will convert into your words, it will become decoding. So, this component includes the skill and habits that are necessary to encode, memorize and recall information as well as think critically. Problem solving strategies and critical thinking skills are also important. Critical thinking involves a variety of skills such as identifying a particular source of information and reflecting on whether or not that information is consistent with one's prior knowledge. Activities to help adults articulate and practice critical thinking includes comprehension activities such as students generated questions before or during reading to focus learners' attention, constructing graphs and tables of real world issues, etc. How you are critically thinking, what I will get up out of it, there is a critical thinking. Now, when you are reading a new thing, your prior knowledge, whatever you have studied, you have read earlier, how it is helping, it will be your cognition. So, first will be the cognition, the second will be metacognition. Within this components are skills that enable learners to understand and monitor their cognitive processes, the cognitive processes. This is comprised of declarative knowledge. What is declarative knowledge? Knowledge about oneself as learners, procedural knowledge about strategies and other procedures, and conditional knowledge. Knowledge of why and when to use a particular strategy. Now, what is metacognition? These are the skill which will help you to monitor your cognitive processes. And what is the declarative knowledge? Knowledge about one's self, what I am, what I have told you, judgment, observation, we have already talked about, and the different strategies. And conditional knowledge. What is conditional knowledge? Knowledge of why and when to use particular strategy. Now, whether I should use this method, or what are the methods I will talk about, whether I should this or that method, which strategies I should apply, that is your metacognition. And third is motivation. The motivation component surfaces the beliefs and attitude that affect the user of development of both the cognitive processes. This component includes both self-efficacy, that is, degree to which one is confident that one can perform tasks or accomplishing a goal, and is epistemological belief, that is, belief about the origin and nature of the knowledge. Now, third is the motive. What is motivation? The motivation word is derived from a word mover, that, and mover in English means moves in. The force which is taking you towards the goal is called motivation. Now, self-regulated learning. What is my goal? That I myself should understand what I am reading, I am studying. So, you know, even you, when you have the belief that what type of the knowledge, what goal I am to achieve, I have achieved this and that, it will motivate you. That is why I said earlier, self-motivation. So, these are the points which are helpful, facilitate the self-regulated learning. Now, what methods I should adopt for the learning task? Now, there are so many methods if we talk about, but I will here, keeping in view the time in limit and the context, the point in view, I will talk about two methods, whole versus part method and mass versus space method. Now, first I will talk, then I will explain you whole versus part method. When a lesson is learned as a whole at a time, it is called whole method. When task is lengthy, difficult, and learners cannot learn as a whole, then material is divided into parts and each part is learned separately. Each part is learned separately. After learning each part, the parts are combined and learned. This method is called as the part method. Some learners may feel difficulty at the time of learning when words are combined. So, Patstein suggested another method called progressive method. In this method, the list is divided into parts. After learning first and the second, these parts are combined and learned. then third part is learned, and these subparts are combined and learned. In this way, the complete material is learned. Now, understand. The first method of self-regulation learning you can adopt is called as the whole versus part. Now, you have 20 words, 30 words, 40 words with you, 40 lines to learn, to understand. Now, if the task is difficult, my capacity is poor, my motivation is low, my condition, physical, psychological condition is not good, I am disturbed, it will be difficult for me to learn the material. If I am learning the whole material at a time, it is called whole learning. If I am not able to learn the whole, then what I will do? 5 words, then 5, then 5. So, I am dividing the material into parts. It is called as the part method. Clear? It will motivate you. If you are not able to learn the 20 words, frustration will come. Frustration will come. I am not able to learn. It will produce negative attitude toward the learning. But 5 words are easy to learn because are short. Oh, who says I can't learn? I have done. Self-motivation, good, I have learned. So, it will enhance your self-regulated learning. But when you are learning in parts, you are not to produce the material in parts, you are to learn as a combined. So, look at the figure which I have made. So, I have divided the whole material into 3 parts, A, B, C and D. You learn A, okay, then B, okay, then C, okay, then D. After learning, you combined A plus B plus C and D, then learn. Now, it will, you are converting now part into the whole method. So, when you are learning by the part method, you are to connect last word of A with the first word of the B, last word of the B with the first word of the C, last word of the C with the first word of the D. Some people say it is a new learning, it will create problem, it will create confusion. So, Patchstein, a lady psychologist, came and she suggested that another method which is called progressive method. So, in progressive method, what we will do? You see, in progressive method, you divide the material into parts, no problem. First A and B, first learn A, then B. Now, you combine A and B, A plus B, learn it. It will be learned. Then learn C. A plus B you have already learned, then A plus B plus C. Fine. Now, A plus B plus C is learned. Now, learn C. Now, combine A plus B plus D. Likewise, you can learn the whole material. Now, you can ask me question, sir, which is better? Whole or the part? Which method we should adopt? There is a no definite answer. It will depend on the difficulty of the task. It will depend on the length of the task. It will depend on the interest, motivation, ability of the learner also. So, which method suits you? Depending upon the material, you decide and learn. It will facilitate your self-learning. So, first method which we talked of was, whole versus part. The second method, is called mass versus space method. Mass method, when a material is learned at a stretch without taking rest. In space method, learning is done by taking rest in between. Which method is best for learning depends on attitude, motivation, readiness, difficulty and length of the material. The best learning will help you to reduce the fatigue, if any. Now, what is mass versus space? I will tell you. Mass means the whole. If you are learning material at a time completely, you study 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour continuously, it is mass. Now, if I break the time, 1 hour, 10-minute rest, then 1 hour study, 10-minute rest, 1 hour study, 10-minute rest. If I am giving breaks in between, it will be called space method or distributed method. If I am not giving any rest, it will be called as the mass method. So, you will say which is best? No answer again. It depends on your attitude, your motivation, the difficulty of the task, your interest, your readiness to learn. because you know when you go to the Thorndike, he says law of readiness. If what is that? If a learner is ready to conduct, to learn, the learning will be better. If you are not ready to learn, you are forced to learn, learning will be poor. Forced to learn is not self-regulated learning. So, if you are ready to learn, it will be better. So, in between rest is space, and without rest it is mass. Now, a question may come in mind, sir, then what is difference between whole versus part and mass versus space? In whole we are also learning at a stretch, in mass we are again learning as a stress. It is versus comparison, whole versus part and mass versus space. Now, listen carefully. In whole versus part, the material was divided, not the time. Whereas in mass versus space, material is not divided, the time is divided. When you divide the time, it becomes mass versus space, and you divide the material, it becomes whole versus part. You might have seen this mass versus space number of time, even your school timetable, 4 periods, then interval recess. What is that? Rest. Mass versus space. 3 periods, chemistry, physics, English, 4th period, sports, library. What is that? That is a break. You go to the cricket, tea break, lunch break, drinks. Look at the tennis, hockey, football, any match. Those matches are not played continuously. The gap, the rest is given in between, because when we work, fatigue is produced. To remove that fatigue, we take the rest, and this rest helps us. Clear? So, you can use these methods, mass versus space, because this is not time sufficient time to explain in detail what is fatigue and what is that. But if you are adopting mass versus space, in the rest period, do the activity which gives you pleasure. Maybe music, maybe sports, maybe gardening, maybe cooking, whatever. Maybe reading book, newspaper, TV serial, whatever gives you pleasure, do that. The learning will be more and you will be motivated. So, now I come to the goal setting. In self-regulated learning, goal setting is important. It is very, very important. Following points play important role. Specific. What exactly do I want to learn? When you are setting goal for yourself, first decide what you want to learn. You want to learn the formula? You want to learn the meaning? You want to learn the definition? What is the purpose of learning? Is the purpose to appear in the examination? Is the purpose just to enhance your knowledge? Whether I am to use in the field? You decide. So, what exactly do I want to learn? Specific. Number 2, measurable. How I will know when I am reaching my goal? There must be some measurement. Then actionable. What action will I take to achieve the goal? How I will achieve the goal? Whether mass or space, whether whole versus part, or that method or this method. Realistic. Why is my goal important and what plan will I follow? You must be realistic in setting the goal. This is my plan I will implement. Suppose you are not able to achieve the goal. Be flexible. Just reduce the goal. Just lower down goal slightly, and when you lower down the goal slightly, you will be able to achieve the goal. It will motivate you. For example, you have decided you are getting 70%. You decided, okay, next semester there are 2 semesters, 3 semesters. My goal is 90%. But in the next semester or in the test, whatever it is, you are not able to achieve the goal 90. You just achieved 75. Then reduce that 90 to 80. Okay, I have reached from 70 to 75. Now my goal is not 90. I will next time try to achieve goal 85. Because when you will achieve to go from 75 to 80, the motivation will be more. So, goal setting should be specific, measurable, actionable and realistic. It must be flexible. Now, time management. It is very important. If you want to regulate your learning, the time management strategy you must adopt. For self-regulated learning, time management is very important. Time management should be for all the tasks involved. Procrastination. What is procrastination? The tendency to put off tasks until some later time that often does not arrive is the enemy of the self-regulated. I will do tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. I will do tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. It is procrastination. If we have procrastination, it is the most biggest enemy of your self-regulated learning. There are some strategies to defeat procrastination. Before coming to those strategies, I tell you, you must be able to, must have a time philosophy. When you are doing a task, self-regulated learning, concentrate on that. Don't think what happened yesterday, what will happen tomorrow. Just focus your task which you are doing. That is why sometimes I usually say that time is money. Time is money. Why? Yesterday was a cancelled check. Yesterday was a cancelled check. Tomorrow is a promissory note. Today is ready cash. Use it. Yesterday has gone. The check has been cancelled. Today is promissory. I don't know what will happen tomorrow, whether I will be here or not. Tomorrow is a promissory note, but today is ready cash. When I am learning, ready cash, use it. Now take the use of that time. It is your time management. So how you will now get rid of those procrastination? I am taking you few steps. Make a map of your long-term goals. If you are starting here, what are the paths you need to take to get to your ultimate goal? Number 2, use a calendar to keep a track of class time, time devoted to studying, time for writing papers, work time, social engagements, everything. Make a map. That's what you have to do. Number 3, before you go to bed, plan your next day. Plan your next day. Starting with when you get up and decide priority of your task of that day. When I will start my next day, which task I will do first, then next and then next. Get enough sleep because it is necessary in managing the task. In my early lecture, I also told you that sufficient sleep is very important. If you have a big task, break them down to smaller, more manageable pieces. If the task is long, just break it. Just I have told you, whole versus part. Do small all tasks like taking a practice quiz or writing the first paragraph of a paper. In those bits of time you might otherwise miss. You do the small bits first, then last. And last, if your schedule falls apart, don't panic. Don't be panicky. Just start again next day. If you are not able to achieve your goal, the task which you have decided the goal, don't be panicky. I have not done. The time has gone. If you will become panicky, the next day will again be wasted. Then you make the strategy for the next day. So if we adopt these strategies, the self-regulating learning will be enhanced. So this topic, this lecture of today is very important for your self-regulated learning. You can help your friends, you can help your brothers and sisters, telling them that how they can also enhance their self-regulated learning. When you become psychologist, a counselor, many students will approach you, sir, we are not able to learn. So it will help you to explain that how self-regulating technique can be increased. So thank you very much to be with me today. Thank you.